Hello and welcome to Walk With Me, the podcast. I am your host, Bédard, and today I'll invite you to embark on the journey that is as simple as it is profound, the act of walking together. Now, the name Walk With Me is intentional, me is my initials, Marie, but it also stands for me as in each one of us. So this podcast is a place where I want us to explore life, death, everything in between and beyond. Over the years, I've witnessed that growth and evolution can be daunting for a lot of people, but when we get out of our heads and walk the path together, something truly magical happens. We collapse time, we tap into our inner wisdom, and unlock amazing potentialities. So this journey is not just about walking. It's more than just putting one foot in front of the other. It's about exploration. It's about the deep connections we form with ourselves, with others, and with the world around us as we move through life. So together, we'll dive into the discoveries of science, the teachings of the heart, and the revelations of the soul. From the frequency of the Black Forest and Journey where I live, I'll be added some sacred feminine wisdom and collective consciousness. We'll explore how everything shapes our lives and our path. So lace up your shoes and let's walk together on this path of growth and evolution. Hello and welcome to another episode of Walk With Me, the podcast. I'm your host, Bédard. I am so happy to be here today and to bring to the table a topic which is, a little unusual, but at the same time so basic in our way of living, in our way of emotionally regulate ourselves since we are children. Can you guess what it is? Now, this podcast is going to be called Please Do Cry in Defense of Tears, because it actually stems from, we were watching something, my husband and I, the other day, and while they were having an interaction, one of the persons started to cry because they were overwhelmed with the situation, and the other person said, "Please don't cry." Have you ever had that? Now, when we're thinking about crying is a powerful natural response to, having a stressful situation or regulating our nervous system that has so many benefits to our emotional and as well physical well-being. And today I wanted to dive into why we should embrace this act rather than shy away from it. So let's start with a little bit of background. Did you know that there are different types of tears? We have basal tears, which keep our eyes lubricated. We have reflex tears, which helps to wash out everything. When you have something in your eye and it becomes all watery until it flushes out. So those are reflex tears. And then we have emotional tears, which are produced in response to our feelings, our emotion. Remember, emotion, energy, emotion. So emotional tears, they have a special, different chemical composition than the other two types of tears. And they contain higher levels of stress hormones like cortisol. So when we cry, especially when we have emotional triggers, our body releases pent-up stress, and that release can lead to immediate feeling of relief or calm. Having a good cry brings you back into a relief, a calmness. It helps to, when you have stuck up energy, emotions inside, it helps to release, and it helps to just flush out whatever is going on to gain more clarity. The other thing that it does, it also triggers the release of endorphins. And endorphins are actually another type of hormones that you may have learned about, that you may have heard, endorphins, one of the hormones that we get from doing exercise, for example, when we're movement, right? So it's actually our body's natural painkiller and mood elevator, right? So that's why when we're doing some exercising, we're having more endorphins. And when we're crying, we're also releasing endorphins. And endorphins interact with the brain receptors to reduce the pain and to induce a feeling of pleasure or even euphoria. So that's why after you have a good cry, not only do you feel a release, but you might feel lighter and even euphoric after a good cry. So when we go back to when we're children, infancy, we can see that crying is one of the first ways that we communicate our needs. Like when a baby cries, it's because there's something it's a need that needs to be met. So the babies, they express a hunger, discomfort, a need for attention, for love, for being, held. So there's an instinctual response that is not just a form of communication, but it's also a way for them to elicit care and connection from their caregivers, their caretakers, their parents. So when an adult comforts a crying baby, they also often release their own stress hormone, creating a cycle of emotional regulation and bonding. So crying serves as an emotional reset button for us, allowing us to process and to release feelings that might be otherwise overwhelming. So now, as we start to grow up, so this is the first type of, nervous system regulation that we have. Now, especially when we have limited communication skills, when we're infants, when we're young children, this might be the way. As we expand on other types of emotional regulation, we actually are invited to expand on these, not necessarily to abandon some of those. So when we're telling a child, please don't cry, sometimes it's actually like, don't cry. Some of us have been in this situation, but like, let's move forward from the crying state, or when you're done crying, then we can actually discuss what is the problem and how we can actually move through it once you've done that part, once you release that part, right? So when we, when we talk about our reaction to other crying by saying, please don't cry, it really usually stems from a desire to comfort and to alleviate the other person's distress. But we sometimes use it because we feel uncomfortable witnessing somebody else's vulnerability, especially if we're uncomfortable with our own vulnerability and we want to protect them from the pain. However, telling someone not to cry can inadvertently invalidate their feelings. And it can also suggest that it's not okay to express sorrow or sadness. So when we say, please don't cry, it has an impact that could actually be so much more detrimental than what we set out to do or to support for the other person. So instead of saying that, we can actually say, please do cry. That's why I say, please do cry. When people in my circles are actually like, they need to express that level of emotion, they need to cry. What happens is a lot of people are crying in safe spaces, but they're still saying, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. Just release that excess of emotion. Let's move through this like we would move through a body of water. Get the body working in a way that it's supposed to be working, releasing that cortisol and other hormones, releasing that endorphins. And once you're in a state where you feel more light, when you feel relief, then we can move on to the other part, which is, let's see this situation, this event, this problem, this whatever is going on from different angles, from different perspective. But if we're actually keeping ourselves from doing that first step, we might be missing a big opportunity to really move through in the natural way that we're meant to be moving through our emotions. So instead, when we're creating a space for the emotions to be expressed, when we're allowing ourselves and others to cry, we really acknowledge this. We really acknowledge that it's a natural, it's a healthy response to life's challenges, right? So refraining from emptying our emotion can lead to actual significant consequences. When we hold back our tears and suppress our feelings, we often experience a buildup of unresolved emotion, and it can actually it can clog up. It can really clog up. And this buildup can lead to emotional breakdowns in less desirable places. I have so many times where people are like, I'm managing. And then all of a sudden they go to, like a gathering, they go to somewhere, and then something happens where it triggers them, and it's like the drop that makes the overflow of the water from the glass, and then they just break down in tears. And then what happens is, if they have always this cycle, they are always creating even more shame and embarrassment around this very natural thing that it is to cry. So And in these situations, we also feel like we've lost control, right? Like instead of creating spaces for that to happen in a safe way, in the safety of our home and the safety of our loved ones. So rather than allowing the emotion to flow, we are also prone to storing them in our bodies, which is such like when we're talking about psychosomatic pains, when we're talking about emotion trapped in the body, they are real, like those pains are real. They are real. And we feel them in our bodies, and they can really interfere with our daily day-to-day because they are trapped somewhere. Now, when we're talking about fascia is very much linked to our emotion, and fascia is the matrix that we are built. It's everywhere in our body. So it really is something that can be stored in the body. They can actually like show up in different ways. The other thing is I was talking about the fact that it releases cortisol. And when we have high cortisol level in our body, we have increased anxiety, we have increased irritability, we have like a lot of like emotional build up that are linked to the fact that we're not releasing that, on top of the physical symptoms such as headache and muscle tension. And then we also have, often difficulty sleeping because we are in pain, because so there's a whole bunch of there's a downward spiral that really arrives there and that really maintains ourselves in that pathway instead of just releasing it. So it's really crucial to recognize that crying is not a sign of weakness. It is not a sign of weakness. It's rather a natural means from our bodies to release stuck emotion and to restore balance in our body. Now, I want to make sure right now that if you are the type of person that have difficulty crying because there's a lot of buildup, this is another path that we need to reopen some doors to allow ourselves and to really re-embrace that, because there have been so much conditioning in that direction. But if you're somebody that cries, not necessarily overly, but cries, I'm gonna invite you to embrace this. And the other thing that is really interesting is I used to be a crier. I was crying all the time, every time. That was the only way that I had to regulate my nervous system. And I was really shaming myself for that. And I've witnessed this so many times with women. They're shaming themselves for being this overly, and I'm air quoting here, overly emotional, instead of taking that and expanding on the different types of regulation that we can have, nervous system regulation that we can have, and understanding the biology behind those tears. So that's why I thought it was so important for me to come here and to talk about this. One thing that I really love to do, and this is a trick, I thought I was the only one to do this, but I heard somebody else say that they were doing this, and I was like, of course I'm not the only one doing this. If you are in a situation or in a place where you feel this buildup, but you can't find a release, or that you don't want necessarily sit with that situation because we're really stirring further in that emotion, right? Remember that emotions are only, their lifespan is only 90 seconds. An emotion's lifespan is only 90 seconds. It passes in 90 seconds unless it is attached with thoughts, belief, patterns, and all those other things that we maintain it alive in our lives, right? But otherwise it's 90 seconds. So when I feel like I need a release and I need to tap into the biology, to biohack that, I just sit with moving content. I just sit with one of my favorite movies, those feel-good movies that make you cry, or it can be a book for some people. It can be music. Music is really a way that we can harness that. And that is actually even a way that a lot of men have a way of actually releasing their tears because they don't find any other places. I know that, the Cure is one of the most common music group that is used by men to actually like release that, but there's so many other ways. But music can be really a way to express and make emotion move in our bodies, whether it's actually like sadness or anger or grief or whatever, as much as, you know, joy, happiness, love. Like the music really touches our heart, and it really moves us in different directions, and we can really harness that. So, but in my case, whether it's a song or whether it's a movie or a series that made me cry, without me sitting in my own whatever is going on, right? I can tap into the biology of what is happening when I'm crying, when I'm releasing those wonderful healing tears. And then I can always find more clarity, and I can always find more calm, and I can always find more spaciousness to find solution to whatever is going on and to move through that. I also write a lot, and every time I actually write something on social media or whatever, like it has a release, because when I'm writing, sometimes I'm like, you know, crying. I'm really crying, and it really releases. And the act of expressing myself with those tears allow me to really move through whatever is going on, release that tension, and find light on the other side. Watching a tear-jerking film or reading a novel with a powerful narrative can evoke deep feelings that might lead us to cry. Poems are actually very powerful, and this process not only allows for emotional expression, but it also can create a sense of connection with the characters or the story, which reinforces our understanding of the human experience. I wanted to leave you with a few tips on how to create conducive and safe spaces for your emotional release, so you don't find yourself in the grocery aisle, you know, balling up over a box of cereals for yourself or for other people. So one, you can actually designate a comfort zone in your house. So find a space where you feel safe and comfortable. It could be a quiet room, it could be a cozy corner with a soft lighting, or even a spot in nature is really great where you can be alone with your thoughts. The second one would be to encourage as much as possible openness. If you're with someone who is struggling, encourage them to express their feeling without any judgment. And that goes for you too. When you catch yourself judging, I'm going to invite you to release that judgment. So, you know, phrases like "it's okay," "I'm here" can help create a safe environment. I also have a great self-compassion meditation. If you're listening to this and you say, "Maria, I would love to have access," just send me an email at info@mebedardofficial.com and I will get you set up. So the other thing that is really cool is to limit distraction and to limit like all the background noise or electronic devices, for you to allow yourself to be in a focused and uninterrupted emotional experience. You can also use comforting items, so surrounding yourself with items that bring you comfort. This could be a favorite blanket, scented candle, like things that make you feel safe. They can create a soothing atmosphere and allow you to give yourself a little bit more in that space. Practicing mindfulness is an incredible way of allowing anything that is going on to be going on. So engaging in deep breathing, mindfulness practices before allowing emotions to flow, this can help ground you and make the emotional release feel safer and more intentional. That's the other key. And creating ritual, for me, especially when we're talking about grieving, creating rituals is really, really amazing, because it helps to establish a routine that can help signal your body that it's time to release emotion. So your body can actually learn to really have these spaces, these rituals where it's okay to release. So it could be through journaling, for example, meditation. It could be any ritual that you want to create for yourself. So that's what I had for you today. So please do cry, embrace your emotions. If you feel the tears that are welling up, don't hold back. Allow yourself to cry. Remember that it's a natural response that leads to clarity and healing. And It's an essential part of being human. So it's okay to feel, it's okay to cry. In fact, like I really encourage you to do so. It's healthy. I'd love to hear your thought on today's episode. How has crying impacted your own life? What experiences do you have around this, So feel free to share with me in social media or anywhere that you can find me. So thank you for tuning in today. And until next time, I love you, I see you, and take care. Thank you for being part of today's episode and walking with me. As the seasons of life shift, we hold the power to navigate our path with courage, intuition, and wisdom, and embrace change with an open heart, for within it lies the potential for remarkable growth and evolution. If this conversation resonated with you, please subscribe on your favorite platform, leave a heartfelt review, and share it on social media. If you know someone who would benefit from this episode, I'd be honored if you shared it with them. You can stay connected with me on social media, where I continue to share insights and inspiration. And for a deeper connection, you can join my Telegram community for exclusive content and real-time conversation. You'll find the link in the show notes. Until our next encounter, keep exploring, embracing change, and finding joy in every moment. And remember, you can always come back here and walk with me.